everyone, welcome to another episode of In Conversation by Advisor Coach. Today in conversation, our guest is Miss Sukanya Ghosh, Fund Manager Equity with SBI Mutual Fund. Welcome, Sukanya, to In Conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, Sukanya, for our viewers, if you could just let us know about your investment management experience, how's it been, what your journey has been?
Sure. So I've been in the mutual fund industry for now almost 16 plus years. I joined SBI Mutual Fund back in 2014. So initially I was with the product team. And then I transitioned to the investment team and look after the quantitative research within the team. So we have been trying to build, a lot of rule-based frameworks which kind of help us give the research team sort of signals for sectors, stocks, themes. So trying to create a lot of these asset allocations, stock-based, rule-based frameworks, which we can use internally as a research house. So we've been also trying to create these frameworks which we can incorporate into our funds, and that's what's been keeping me occupied.
Wonderful, thank you for that. So Sukanya, SBI Mutual Fund is launching their new fund offer of SBI Quant Fund on the 4th December and closing on the 18th of December. So could you just take our viewers through what's going to be the strategy of the SBI Quant Fund? What factors, will you be considering? Will there be any sectors which will be, excluded, or stocks which will be excluded out of this portfolio?
Yeah, so the quant fund strategy, the framework is basically focused on a multi-factor framework where we kind of try to mix 4 factors: momentum, value, quality, and growth. And we try to come up with a sort of a combined quant score. So we are trying to combine 4 unique factors. And what we have seen typically is that different factors work in different market cycles. So if you can combine them together and create a framework, it is more risk-adjusted. In a risk-adjusted return, it is a better framework, and it also kind of gives you a diversification to grow across different styles. And it's one of the best things about it being in a fund-based way is that there's a lot of operational ease in this, so you can move across the 4 factors without any taxation implications, and it's far more easier for an investor to kind of move within these 4 styles. So this is basically the strategy of the fund.
Right. So, and any inclusion or exclusion of any sectors in this model?
No. So what we have tried to be is that we don't want to exclude any sector, any stock. We consider every stock within the universe as an eligible candidate to enter into our portfolio. The framework should be robust enough so that to ensure that the best stocks in the current market conditions are picked for that. So the framework would be the main deciding factor.
Sure. So how does this multi-factor model actually operate? But that's one question. The other one is, how many stocks approximately this portfolio should be holding, and from its comparatively to its universe, which will be holding, and what will be the investment strategy, so to speak?
Sure. So the way the multi-factor framework works is that, so we look at the top 200 companies in the universe. And this is basically by market cap. We just take all of them. Mm-hmm. And we kind of rank all of the stocks based on momentum, value, quality, and growth, which then kind of combined into a composite quant rank. An interesting way that our fund kind of combines the 4 ranks is that we consider the factor momentum of all the 4 factors. So whichever factor is performing, we kind of weight that factor, give a higher weight to that factor in our framework, and whichever factor is not performing, we kind of reduce the weight of that factor. So basically, we go with whichever style is working in the market, and that tilt comes into the framework. So based on that composite quant rank, we create a portfolio. So that is the main deciding factor of what comes into the portfolio, what is excluded. The last leg is that we have tried to make this framework as, on paper, these things looks great. These things looks like, like something that you can replicate. But, in real life, there's a lot of other challenges that active fund managers face. And liquidity is a major factor. So what we have done is that we have kept a lot of these bells and whistles where we kind of have liquidity parameters, we have tracking error limits, churn limits, where we ensure that the portfolio is not as illiquid as possible.
And could you just highlight some of them for the viewers?
Sure. So we have different active stock weights that we take based on the liquidity of a stock. So if a stock is illiquid, we ensure that we don't take a huge concentration towards that stock, so that since the next one of the important things of a rule-based framework is that fund has to be able to replicate that in real life as closely as possible, because otherwise there'll be a tracking error. So you want to keep it as liquid as possible. So if you have a concentration to an illiquid stock, it may be difficult to then exit it when the framework kind of removes that stock from the portfolio. So what we have ensured in this framework is that we don't have an extreme concentration towards illiquid stocks. We have a higher active stock weight for more liquid stocks. So that's kind of one of the inbuilt risk based constraints that we have introduced into the framework. We have also kept some active stock sector weights. We have kept some tracking error limits. We have kept some churn limits. These are just to ensure that the portfolio is as nimble as possible. It's very important for a rule-based framework to kind of be able to mimic the actual model portfolio. So liquidity is essential.
Sure. So, and how many stocks approximately this portfolio?
What we have seen typically from the backtesting results, that around 30 to 45 stocks is what is usually in the portfolio. It's also dependent on what kind of stocks are getting a very high composite quant rank. So if you see a lot more illiquid stocks, you are forced to hold more stocks because you don't want a very heavy concentrated illiquid portfolio. Sure. When you have more liquid stocks as better ranked, then you can have a more concentrated portfolio. So that's kind of the deriving factor.
So when you did your backtesting within these 4 factor models, which you just mentioned, what kind of results were they encouraging when you did your backtesting, number 1? And number 2, in terms of which were the sectors which were appearing more prominently to be present in that portfolio? Even if the sectoral caps, if you could just mention.
Sure. So we the performance was quite good. The point to point, obviously, it as on October end, it's kind of outperformed the BSE 200 significantly, and also outperformed a lot of on an average large cap and large and mid cap funds too. But what's more important for us is that we looked at the trailing 3-year rolling returns and 5-year rolling returns, and what was very encouraging that it has also managed to give almost 77% of the time above average returns. So it's quite the framework was quite robust in different parts of the backtesting period, which was very important for us. Sectors. Also, one thing that would like to highlight is that this framework kind of ranks stocks. So sectors is a derivative of what the portfolio is constructed. We are not trying to take any sector calls.
Absolutely.
So the sector weights kind of come up from what kind of style tilts are there in the portfolio. So when we have seen because we have a dynamic allocation, so there have been points in the in time when value has outperformed, and that's why value tilt has increased. So you see a lot of these value typically value sectors like OMCs, like metals coming in, and then when quality has performed really well. So you have this period between 2013 to 2020 when quality did really well, and the weights in quality in the framework also increased. So at that point of time, we had a lot of IT, we had a lot of staples, but that is kind of like the end result of the framework. We didn't take an IT call.
Yes, that was the outcome of the framework which happened, so to speak. Sure. So is this portfolio very nimble, quick on the feet in terms of moving out of certain stocks and then getting into certain stocks, depending on as to what the factor model speaks out?
Yeah, so that is one of the most important things in a rule-based framework, where you have to be as nimble as possible. So yeah, we rebalance this on a monthly basis. We try to kind of pick each and every which whenever there's a style shift, what we do is that the allocation moves towards the new performing factor. So yeah, it's quite nimble. That's the most important part of the framework. Yeah.
And monthly you rebalance it as to.
Yeah, we look at the factor performance of the 4 factors. Whichever factor is performing, we increase the weightage towards that factor, and accordingly we reduce the weightage of whichever is not.
Sure. So, Kanya, why should investors and distributors look at investing in this SBI Quant Fund?
Yeah. So the way we look at it for this fund is that it's kind of like a smart large cap fund.
Hmm.
So investors who are looking at investing into, say, an index large cap index fund, this is maybe a better way to go into a large cap universe where you are getting the rule based framework where we are moving according to different styles which are performing in the market. This is something that if you're doing it on your own through the factor indices, it will be very cost inefficient for you, which will also lead to tax implications. So this is a fund which kind of does it for you in the large cap universe. So yeah, so this is something that is sort of like a smart large cap fund. That's the way we would like to look at it.
Sure. So today, through this in conversation, what message would you like to give to distributors, to advisors and investors specifically? Because see, when you look at an active fund, okay, active fund also is following some sort of factor modeling, correct? But here the only difference is it's a very rule-based. So what message would you like to give, and you being a quant specialist, in terms of about the factor modeling, investing now and going ahead in the future, and particularly for SBI Quant Fund?
So the main message that we have about this framework is that so this is a multi-factor framework. The benefits of a multi-factor framework are that there are certain factors that work in different cycles. The whole nature of these factors are that there will be a value factor which will work in certain market cycles. There will be a quality factor which will work in downtrending markets. So you need a combination of these factors. Very important to you can't have a huge concentration on one factor only. You will have to have a multi-factor framework which will help to reduce the drawdowns. So this is a framework like that. And the unique selling proposition for us is that in this framework, we are also dynamically allocating. So we don't have a static allocation between the four factors. We don't say that we don't have any bias that we are saying that, in India, quality has worked historically, so we are going to have a quality tilt. This framework kind of just says this is what is working in the markets currently. This is the style that is working. So we will tilt our portfolio towards that. So yeah, it is a far more dynamic way of allocating between different factors. So this would be like for me the most unique thing in our fund.
Sure. So well, for our viewers, this is Miss Sukanya Ghosh, Fund Manager Equity with SBI Mutual Fund, talking about the new fund offer, SBI Quant Fund, being launched on 4th of December and closing on the 18th of December. And a very interesting fund because it talks about multi-factor modeling and pretty much taking away all the requirements for a very active monitoring of an investment from an investor side as well as from the advisor stroke distributor side. And because the fund pretty much changes basis the factor modeling output on a monthly basis, and takes complete control of what needs to be done of the investments. So Sukanya, thank you very much for taking us through, and thank you very much for taking our time, and wish you the very best for this SBI Quant Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.